All right, here we are. We're in Authority of the Home, and we're covering some of the questions. There are quite a few questions that we have. I believe there's 15 or so. So let's just go through and y'all give your answers to these questions. Do you believe that authority in the home is needed? And if yes, give 2 or so reasons why that authority is needed. Anybody? Is it needed? Okay, now wait a minute. See, everybody answers at once so you don't have to answer the rest of it. Okay? Brett, you answered yes. Why is authority needed in the home?
Discipline and structure.
Okay, discipline and structure. Anybody else? What's that? I didn't understand it still. Harmony, okay? Harmony in the home, absolutely. If not, there's just going to be turmoil in the home. Anywhere? Okay, order and peace. Okay? If we don't have rules, if we don't have somebody that's making certain that everything's carried out properly, we're going to have problems. Here we go. Listen to that, because the Lord ordered it, and He's the one who established the home, and so we definitely do need it in our homes. Yes, Rodney? Okay, yes, there's a lot of times when there needs to be a final decision made about something, isn't there? And so somebody needs to make that authority. Let me ask you this, folks. If there is no authority in the home, will there be a fight for power? Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Anytime you get more than yourself, and sometimes you fight with yourself, but anytime you get more than yourself together, and there's not authority, guess what? There can be problems, can't there? And if there's nobody in charge, then the ones that are there start fighting among themselves. And I wrote down this: the richest will prevail. The most ruthless will rule. The strongest personality will be in charge. A group of people will take over, won't they? And guess what? That's happened in more than one place, hasn't it? And so God understands that there needs to be authority. I wrote this little note down. Just because they are in charge does not mean they have the skills and abilities to lead the institution. Is that true? Yeah, folks, just because somebody can take charge of something doesn't mean they know what they're doing when they get in the position. You know, there's been a lot of football teams who have lost a lot of games because they hired a leader who didn't know what in the world he was doing. Okay? I didn't say Gators, you brought them up. But Brett says the Gators are a wonderful illustration. I also wrote down this: if there is no authority, the institution eventually will crumble. It will crumble. Folks, it'll fight, it will war within itself until such a point that it will finally fall into oblivion. Okay, and that is true of the home. Number 2, we often hear the words, the man is the head of the house. I almost hesitate to ask this question, okay? How many believe that? Yeah, see, I knew about half of you would raise your hand. It don't matter what the Bible says, you know. You kind of believe it, you know. Guys, if we can't teach what the Bible teaches, we got problems. You know what? The Bible is the man is the head of the house. Every arm in this building ought to go up if you're a Christian. That's what the Bible says. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church. So the question is this: what in the world does that mean to you? That the husband is the head. What's that mean? Okay, we live under His knowledge and by His knowledge. Okay. Anything else? What's that? Okay, we live by His guidance. Anybody else? Okay, he's got the responsibility placed upon him relative to the things that are decided. Larry? Okay, he's the one that's going to have the responsibility for the welfare of the home. Brett?
Well, one thing is, if you have a responsible head of the household, the father, it instills some comfort in the family that there's that head that is the head of the household that you look up to for answers.
Okay.
You know, and there's a certain comfort level there knowing that, your father, has got this.
So here's a mainstay in the home, and so everybody can look to him for answers, for protection, for your well-being. Notice how the Bible says, "For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is what? The head of the church." I just find it interesting that the Bible always makes the comparison between Christ and the church and the husband and the wife. The husband is the head of who? The wife, as Christ is the head of the church. The wife is to submit to her husband as the church is supposed to submit to the Christ. Folks, those are powerful, powerful illustrations. So whatever is in our minds about Christ being the head of the church, we ought to be able to bring that over into the home, and the husband is the head of the wife in that same kind of sense. It is authority, is it not? The husband is the authority in the home. Okay? Now, we don't like to use that word, do we? But that's exactly what that means. The head governs and directs the affairs of the body, of the organization. The head has authority and power to make decisions that others in the family do not have. The head is to be honored and obeyed by the other members of the family because he's the what? He's the head. Okay? We need to get back and probably do a lot more teaching on headship in the home. You know it? Because it's been destroyed to a great extent in our society. And so it's a very, very interesting study. And maybe we need to do some more of it, and we will next year in some of our lessons. Number 3, do children need both parents to be authority figures over them? Okay.
One's not going to be there all the time.
Okay. Well,
They're both not going to be there all the time. There's always, like my father went off to camp for 2 weeks a year.
okay.
Well, that was when a time that we could think we were big shots and do whatever we wanted, till we got home.
See, here's the problem with the question, the way I answered it. Okay, we answer the question based upon the practice in society today. Didn't we? No, you don't need 2 parents in the home. We got thousands of homes today without 2 parents. Everybody doing fine. We didn't answer it spiritually. We didn't answer it biblically. Okay? Folks, do children need 2 parents in the home? Yes. That's Bible. That's scriptural. Now, I'm not saying that it can't be done with one, but the scriptural method, the scriptural authorization is for there to be a mother and a father in the home as the authority over children. Isn't it? Larry?
Going back to the former question, authority does not mean that one is not equal in intelligence or whatever.
It's true.
That's what's happened to authority in the home, is that the woman's movement has said, we're as good as you are, and that doesn't have anything to do with it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do. Larry said authority doesn't have to do with anything like intelligence, ability, especially looks. Has nothing to do with those kind of things. But it has to do with what? It has to do with where the buck stops, doesn't it? And decision making and things of that nature. Let's see, Mike first.
Well, it's like my dad was in the military, so when my dad wasn't there, we followed under my mom's rules, and my mom and dad always agreed on how we were supposed to be brought up. So it was not a problem for us for our mom to tell us what to do.
You bet. And that's the way it ought to be, hadn't it? Jeannie? Yep. Yeah, we'll get to that question here in a second. See, that's the way we always are, see. We don't ever like to talk about anything exclusively, do we? You always got to talk about, the minute I say the man's the head, yeah, but guess what? I get that all the time. You can't even preach on it without talking about the other, one of these days. I can preach on Christ as the head of the church, but I can't preach on man's the head of the wife without preaching on 5 sermons. Okay? Let me read you a couple of things about two-parent households, folks. And this is based on statistics, okay? And it's not true in every home, okay? So we're not trying to belittle homes. We're just trying to look at the facts of the matter, okay? Two-parent households usually contribute to better academic achievement in children. Two-parent households usually find children more emotionally stable. Two-parent homes are less likely to have young people with early pregnancy. Two-parent homes have less drug use and crime committed by the children. Now, that's not trying to be prejudicial. That's not trying to belittle single-parent homes. There's some single-parent homes that are doing wonderful. Okay? But guess what? That is an exception oftentimes and not the rule. And the parent that's doing that is putting in double and triple time to make certain some good things are happening in the lives of those children. Oh yes, more education, more opportunities, more money, more discipline, more attention can be given to children with two-parent households. Sadly, 22 million children go home to single-parent families every day in the United States. I want you to listen to this. The USA has the highest rate in the world of single-parent homes. Isn't that amazing? Here we are, supposed to be the most powerful nation in the world, and guess what? We have the worst statistics when it comes to the home. Okay? We need to really reel it in. And the church needs to take the forefront on a lot of this, don't we? Who else had their hand up? So Larry?
Here, when my dad was away, the words, "You wait till your dad gets home."
Did it happen? Oh yeah. I hated that too, you know it? First thing you do when you walk in the door, you got 3 kids lined up that you got to beat. You can't even hug them yet. You need to take care of them 3 right there. They've been terrors. Come here, kid. Hug them, then beat them. Good to see you, pal. Unbelievable, Who else had something? He said that his kids were told a lot of times, wait till your dad gets home. Yep. I figured you probably did.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you just admitted it a while ago. When your dad was gone, you did all kinds of junk till he got home, and then, it was holy terror when he got home. Question number 4. We listed 6 examples of men who were authority figures in their home last time. And I asked, can you think of another biblical home wherein there were good authority figures? Who? Zebedee? Okay. Anybody else? Abraham? Okay. Mentioned Noah, that was one of our examples last time. Mentioned Abraham last time, he was one of our examples, wasn't he? I'm talking about additional examples. We gave you 6. Okay. Job, we mentioned Job. Who? Moses. Okay, Moses. Yes, Moses had a good home. Okay, as far as we can tell, even though his wife, came from a different place, didn't she? Okay. One that came to my mind, folks, was 2 parents by the name of Zechariah and Elizabeth. Does anybody know whose parents? John the Baptist. John the Baptist, yes. And the reason I thought about these 2 is Zacharias was a priest in the house of God. Okay? The Bible says that he was of the course of Abiah. Okay? So he held a very prominent position as a religious figure in the nation of Israel. The Bible says this, that he and Elizabeth were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments of the Lord blameless. Wow. That's a good couple, is it not? Here's a very religious, a very spiritual couple. Zacharias was informed about John's mission prior to his birth. Okay? So here's an angel appears to Zacharias, and he tells him that this is the forerunner for the Christ. This is the young man that's going to go out and he's going to be preaching and teaching to the nation of Israel. And guess what? They trained him in such a way that that is exactly what he did. Isn't that something? John the Baptist fulfilled the mission that God intended for him to have. So, it just shows that, a good authority figure in the home, okay, a good man like Zacharias can do wonders in that home if we want. Anybody else got another Bible example of a good home? Joseph and Mary, yes. And we don't know much about Joseph especially, do we? But yes, again, to give birth to the Messiah, that just blows my mind. And not to be elevated and not to be puffed up and not to try to attain some kind of glory because of that tells me a lot about Mary for certain. You know it? A lot about Mary. Number 5, this is going to be interesting right here, the most interesting question in the whole. Why would a king like Ahab give so much power to his wicked wife Jezebel? Why? What's that? Lazy. Yep. Lazy. Okay, yeah, but it's because she made that name that way. But it could be that Ahab just did not want to exert the effort to be the kind of man that he needs to be in the home. Okay, does it take a lot of effort? Oh yes, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. It takes, a lot of development of skills. And there are some men today, guess what? Yeah, they want nothing to do with that. I know a couple of families that I can think of right now in my mind, and the man is useless. He's there. He's faithful to his wife, but guess what? He is useless when it comes to being a parent. The mother does everything with that kid or kids, okay? And the dad just says, you take them, do whatever. Boy, I got a lot. I see these women, they know this stuff, boy.
Well, then also she might have been extended apart his emotional behavior that he may not have wanted to show to everybody, but then she could do all those evil deeds out there, kind of like a scapegoat.
I'm trying to think of a way to put that, okay? So she was willing to do what he was not... he was willing because he allowed her to do it. Maybe he didn't have the courage and the fortitude to do some of these evil... Although he was an evil heart. And I ain't going there. Yep. She was just good at it. Woo! Jeannie. Hey, now let me tell you something. There are some women in homes that have very strong personalities, don't they? And they have very strong desires. And they are almost type A personalities. You know what? And guess what? Can that create havoc in the home? Yeah. You shut up and listen. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Okay? And guess what the guy says? Yes, ma'am. Because if you don't, there's problems. Now, folks, we laugh at this, but it's true. This kind of stuff goes on in houses today, okay? And Ahab may very well, just don't rock the boat. Just do whatever the wife wants done, and that way I don't have to fight any battles. I don't have to get any arguments. I don't have to get any conflicts, whatever. Uh-oh, another answer back there from a lady. These ladies got input, boy. Very good. Yes, Ahab was not the first king of Israel, folks. Okay, remember we said there were 19 wicked kings. Ahab just happens to be the one that God chose as the example of all the wicked kings. Okay? But Ahab had a dad, didn't he? And guess what? He was just as wicked and corrupt as he could be. And so we pass down those patterns, don't we? And we pass down those teachings. And so, Ahab's dad, a useless guy. So guess what? Ahab just continues the pattern. And patterns today in societies, until a family wakes up and until a child or a parent says, look, this is going to end. This has been the pattern in my family for a long time, and it ends here. And they change the patterns, then things can change drastically in houses. So that's exactly right. That can happen. Let's go to the next question. And see, this is the one that's the offset of the others, so all the women can now be happy. Okay? How does a husband's love for his wife combine with his headship over her? Now, I figure every woman in here should be talking right now. Okay? Y'all ought to know this like the back of your hand. You ought to have me a 10-page book on this. Marilyn, you put that hand up first.
I believe in home, husband and wife, if you have love, trust, and respect, communication. That's my favorite part.
Okay, very good. Absolutely. Turn over to 1 Corinthians 13 for just a minute. 1 Corinthians 13, just a minute. Somebody just start reading. We'll stop every now and then. In verse 4 beginning. Stop. Husbands, love your wives. Charity, love, suffers long and is what? Kind. Folks, a loving husband will never what? Be unkind to his wife. Okay? Even though he's what? Even though he's the head. Keep going. Stop. Doth not behave itself unseemly. Okay, folks? It doesn't exhibit horrible behavior in the home. Okay? It doesn't exhibit, he doesn't beat his wife. He doesn't cuss his wife out. He doesn't, go bonkers over some little mistake that his wife makes. Okay? Now, if she just keeps charging Amazon, that's a whole different story. But, but occasionally, see, it's when you get into practical application, you're getting problems with this kind of stuff, okay? But he just doesn't what? He doesn't behave himself unseemly. Keep going. Hear that? Seeketh not her own. Love doesn't seek its own. Folks, if a husband truly loves his wife, if he truly loves his children, guess whose interest he always seeks? He seeks their interest, their best interest, even before what? His own, right? He wants a Harley, but he buys her one instead. Now, she don't know what she's doing, so he has to teach her, but I'm just kidding, okay? But do you see those qualities that are there? Okay? If a man understands what love is and he implements those qualities in his home, folks, the fact that he's the head, the authority, and he makes decisions in that house isn't going to be a problem, because those people know what? He makes those decisions, he does what he does because he what? Because he loves us and has us in his best interest. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Or as long as it's been mutual, agreed upon, and there's understanding and things, he's not going to stop all that kind of stuff, Absolutely. Notice question number 7 very quickly. Why would a man give all the authority in the home to his wife? All right, we've already mentioned lazy, possibly like Ahab might have been, right? He what? Okay, yes. He may be ill. And sometimes that happens in households, doesn't it? An individual, a man, gets so sickly or he is so sickly that he cannot. Now, that takes on a whole different personality within the home, doesn't it? It makes it very difficult. What did you say, Brett?
Well, he doesn't have confidence in himself.
Okay, a man may not have confidence in himself. Okay, he may have been raised in a house where he doesn't have specific qualities that are leadership qualities, and therefore makes it very difficult for him to be the kind of leader that he needs to be. Oh boy, that's right. There may be homes wherein the father figure is taken away quite a bit. Okay, take for instance the military, or there's other professions. There's Lauren, when she was married to John, he was gone every other month. Okay, so about the time you come back and you get regular again, guess what? It's gone, right? So the woman has to do some things that maybe the man normally does, and even when he gets back, they have to work through that kind of stuff, don't they? And makes it very hard in the home. There should be, but we're blind a lot of times, aren't we, to things, and we don't want to see things that are there, that are prevalent. And that was kind of in the next question. How can a young man determine whether or not a woman he longs to marry has a desire for power and authority? And there's 2 ways to do that. Okay? Watch his future mother-in-law at work. I'm serious. It's truthful. Okay? She may become like her mama, right? And watch her. Quit looking at her looks and look how she behaves. Let's go to the movies. I want to go. I ain't going to the movie. I don't want to see no movie today. We're going over here. Okay, sweetie, because she's so pretty, And see, she's already starting to what? She's already starting that bossy stuff. Okay. Does she respect him? Does she disagree with him? Does she possess a lot of self-will? How does she feel about men in general? Does she respect and obey her father? There's a lot of things they can look for, folks. And if you really look, now we have to teach these things to our children, and that's what we don't do, is teach our children how to do these things. Teresa? Uh-oh. She just got a little dementia over here. All right, Bev, real quick. Did you forget too? Huh? Well, she forgot. Now she's gone. All right, here you go. What can they do? Ask what? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, good conversation never hurts. Okay, yes. A lot of times we don't work out those things before we get married, do we? We don't talk about any of that kind of stuff. Okay.
Preachers, especially in the church, namely one of them sitting in this building, will not marry you unless he has counsel with you.
Oh, absolutely. But just because you can give some people some counsel, and guess what? It doesn't necessarily mean anything. That we need to start teaching little bitty and training them real early. Okay.
But I'm talking about things that are important.
Oh yes, yeah. We need. It helps. The main reason the preacher does that. The main reason the preacher does that, though, is to ensure himself that he feels that this couple, that it's a good marriage for himself. Okay, a lot of times. Yeah, because just a couple of hours of counseling, man, it doesn't always do much. Yeah, he is. Bev, real quick.